Okay, solving the equation. You have 20x to the second minus 60x equals 0. So we know because the x is to the second power that there's two answers to the problem. I have x to the second, but I also have x. So when I have these x's that can't be combined, we have to use our factor properties to solve the equation. Okay. These are your factor properties. First, you have to make sure you're set at 0, though, and we are. Okay, so those, I have two terms, it's a binomial. Okay, you factor that with the greatest common factor, then seeing if you have a difference of two perfect squares. Okay, so remember how to do a GCF. You check the final term for a variable in the binomial. The 0 doesn't count because as equals 0 gets shoved out. So there's a variable there, x. Check the first term for a negative. It's not there, front's positive. Now find the GCF of the coefficients. So you're looking at 20 and 60. So here's 20, here's 60, so 20 would be the greatest common factor. 20x. So I go up and divide by 20x, and then 20 divided by 20 is 1. X to the second divided by x, remember how to do that. X is what we end up with. Negative 60 divided by 20 is negative 3, so it'll be minus 3, and then x divided by x cancels. Okay. Okay, now put that 20x over to the side and cross it out. Now, if you have a 1 in front of the x, get rid of it. Now, is this a difference of perfect squares, this expression here? Well, you have a minus, but the x isn't even to the second power, so you write no. So then you take that x minus 3, put it right beside the 20x, and those are the two factors we'll be using to solve. Both contain x from the inside. F1, F2, so 20x could equal 0. X minus 3 could equal 0. Okay, so we have 20 times x, so we get rid of times with divide. 0 divided by 20 is 0. X minus 3 plus 3 plus 3, and x equals 3. 0 and 3 are the two answers. Okay, my next problem, I have x to the second power minus 2x minus 63 equals 0. So there are two solutions to the equation. We have x to the second power and we have x to the first power. So again, that we have to use the factoring properties. So you make sure you're equal to 0 in the equation. You are. Now, this right here is 3 terms. It's a trinomial. So we go to the GCF. And then we do our t-table. Don't worry about this stuff, okay? That's for later. Okay, so greatest common factor. Remember, don't remember how to do that. These are the 3 things you have to check for. Check for the final term for a variable. Not there. Check the first term for a negative. Not there. Find the GCF of the coefficients. Well, 1, 2, and 63 is just 1. Okay, so 1 would be the GCF, so don't do it. A, B, C. So I take positive 1 times negative 63. Okay, that's going to be negative 63. So that is a mismatch. Your 2 parentheses you're trying to come up with will be a mismatch of signs because the final term multiplies to negative 63. So positive, negative. And we're adding, you're always adding to whatever your b is, which is negative 2. Okay. So start dividing. 1 and 63 probably doesn't accomplish that. 63 divided by 2 is decimal. 3 and 20, no, 63 divided by 3 is 21. That's still way wide to add -2. Then 63 divided by 6, nope. 63 divided by, or what am I doing? 63 divided by 4, no. 63 divided by 5, nope. 6, nope. 7, yes. 7 and 9. 7 plus -9 is the -2. So there we go. Okay, now what's your a? Put the a is the x, the coefficient on x squared. It's 1. Okay, so you make these parentheses here, and you put your +7 and your -9. Okay, then you put x, and then I apply 1s. It's already in simplest form with the 1. 1 and 7 would be divisible by 1. Okay. Really, that doesn't change it. You can divide it if you want, but take the 1 off in the end. 1 and 9 divisible by 1. You're more than welcome to divide it by 1 and put it down there, but it's not going to change it. It'll stay 1x minus 9. Okay, and this is F1, this is F2. So x plus 7 could equal 0, or x minus 9 could equal 0. -7, x equals -7. +9, x equals 9. Okay, -7 and +9 are the answers. Okay, next equation, we have 3x to the second power plus 23x plus 14 equals 0. So there are two answers to this equation. We have an x to the second and we have an x, so we have to factor. Okay, we're equal to 0, that's good. Put set, and we have 3 terms again. So the 3 term properties is GCF and then the table. Okay, so you don't have a variable, the front's positive, then 3, 23, and 14. Nope, they'd just be in row 1, so take that out. A, B, C. So positive 3 times positive 14. That's positive 42, so that means we're looking for a match of the factors, so I put matching signs. We're trying to add those to get to plus 23. So start dividing 1 and 42, that's wide of 23. 42 divided by 2 is 21. Okay, the way I have those now, that's negative 23, so I can stop dividing. Now to make it into positive 23, just go in and switch both the signs to the opposite, and that's what we want. Okay, now A, that's your x squared coefficient, that's 3. Okay, so when we make our parentheses, we will be putting the plus 2 and the plus 21. Then x to the second is xx, then we apply that coefficient in front of each of the x's. So 3 and 2 are both in the first row. Okay, so you can divide by 1, that's fine, but it's really not going to change. Okay, 3x plus 2 is going to be my first factor. Now 3 and 21, here's 3, here's 21, so we need to divide those both by 3. Okay, that's going to be 1x plus 7. Take the 1 off the x, so it's just x plus 7 equals 0. Okay, there's your factoring. Now once again, we know this is right because 3x times x is 3x to the second. The 2 times the 7 is a 14, then the 23 derives itself if you FOIL. So 3x plus 2 could equal 0, x plus 7 could equal 0. So we have times 3 and plus 2, so we need a minus 2. It's 0 minus 2 is negative 2. And negative 2 divided by 3. Don't like that. Second PRB at negative 2/3. So negative 2/3 is the first solution. Then the second one, we subtract a 7 from each side, and x equals negative 7. There's your two answers. Okay, 12x to the second plus 20x minus 8 equals 0. So we have two solutions here to this equation. We are set with the 0, and you have a trinomial. That's 3 terms. Okay, so GCF and t-table. Now we are going to do the GCF here. Now you don't have the variable. The front's positive, but if you look up your coefficients, 12, 20, and 8. 8, no. But if you go to 8, there's 12, there's 20, so it's 4. Okay. No negative, no x on the 4. Okay. But it's 4, so I go up and divide by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3. Now you're not dividing the x to the second by anything. You just keep the x second attached on that 3. 20 divided by 4 is 5. You keep the x attached because you're not dividing that. Then negative 8 divided by 4 is negative 2. So minus 2. Now you put that GCF over there. And ABC now, not up here, the 3x to the second, the 5x, and the negative 2. Okay, so 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Okay, so we're talking mismatch. That's a positive times a negative, so you start dividing. 6 divided by 1 is 6, okay, and you're adding to the positive 5, okay. Okay, if I take 1 plus negative 6, that's negative 5, so I don't need to divide. I just need to make it into a positive with a plus 6 and a minus 1. So the A is not 12 anymore. The x squared coefficient has turned into 3. So I put minus 1 plus 6. So I put 3, or XX, then attach the 3's. 3 and 1, that'll just be in the first row, so that'll just stay the same. 3 and 6, well, those are both in 3's row. So divide them by 3, and that's 1x plus 2. Alright, you can take the 1 off the x, you have to keep the 3 in front of that x. So 3x minus 1, x plus 2. Now, the 4 doesn't have an x, so I don't need that to solve. The f's come from where we have the x variables that we're trying to solve for. So 3x minus 1 equals 0, x plus 2 equals 0. So you plus 1, divide by 3. 1 divided by 3 is at repeating decimal. Second PRB it, and it's 1/3. Then minus 2, and x would be negative 2. Okay, moving along. Negative 6x to the second equals negative 12x. So there are two solutions here. Okay, two answers. Because we have x second along with x. But you're not set. You need to get the 0, so you're going to add that 12x to each side. Okay, so you're going to put the x can't go with the x to the second, so you need to put 12x there. Remember, we have to do all this factoring stuff because those cannot be combined. So I line up my equals 0. Well, I know I've got x to the second. I know I've got an x in the equation, but I do not have any constants, so I do not make a splot for the constants. So x second, you got negative 6, and x, you have positive 12 now. Okay. So now you're good. You have two terms now, okay? These are two terms. So to factor those, you're going to go GCF DOPS, okay? Greatest common factor. Then we see if the result is a difference of perfect squares. Okay, so I checked the last term for a letter, it's there. Okay. The front is negative, so we need to put a negative right at the beginning of the space. Now we look at the coefficients 6 and 12. So here's 6, here's 12, so it would be 6. So we need to go up here and divide by negative 6x. Okay. So negative 6 divided by negative 6 is 1. Then we need to divide the x to the second by the x. That would be x. Then the positive 12 times the negative 6 is negative 2. Then x divided by x, that cancels. Okay. Okay, so we put that in parentheses, and then we put it over here, and then we cross it out so we're not focused in on that, because the dots comes from the second parentheses. Well, you got minus, take out the 1. If you have a coefficient of 1 in front of the x, get rid of it. Now, x without a second power is not a perfect square, okay? So we get rid of that, and that's, or put no, and then x minus 2 goes alongside it. Okay, so F1, F2. So negative 6x could equal 0. X minus 2 could equal 0. Divide by negative 6. And that's 0. Then you plus 2, and you get 2. Okay, next problem. X to the second power minus 2x equals 6x plus 20. So we have two answers. We have x to the second and x in the equation, so we have to factor. Okay, we need to put a 0 here. So we need to get rid of the 6x and the 20. So minus 6x, and then we would minus that. That can be minus from the negative 2x. And then get rid of your plus 20 by minusing 20. Now 20 is a constant, so it doesn't go with the x to the second, doesn't go with the x, it just goes behind it. Now put equals 0 and slot it. So you're going to have x to the second, x, and you do have a constant now. So x second, you got 1. Now the x, it's not 2 minus 6, it's negative 2 minus 6, which is negative 8. And then negative 20 is your constant. Minus means it's negative. So now I see the zeros there. Now we're factoring 3 terms. Okay. So 3 terms is GCF table. Okay. I don't see an X. The front's positive. 1, 8, and 20. Well, that's 1, okay? If 1's where you'd start, then 1's where you'd stay, so that means we're not going to do that. Then A, B, C. Positive 1 times negative 20. Positive 1 times negative 20 is negative 20. So that's a mismatch. Positive, negative. And we're adding to try to get to whatever my B is, which is negative 8. So 20 divided by 1 is 20. Add those, that's not negative 8. 20 divided by 2 is 10. 2 plus negative 10 is exactly negative 8. Okay, nice. What's our A? Well, it's whatever the x squared coefficient, x to the second coefficient is, which is 1. Okay. So plus 2 minus 10. So x, and then 1, 1. 1 and 2 are only in 1's row, so it's already in simplest form. Cross out the 1. Same with the 1 and 10. You can divide by 1 if you want, but they're just the same. So that's what we end up with. We end up with x plus 2, x minus 10 equals 0. So F1, F2. So x plus 2 could equal 0, or x minus 10 could equal 0. So we minus 2, that's going to be negative 2. We plus 10, x equals 10. Okay. 8x to the second power minus 14x equals negative 3. So again, we know there's two answers. We have x to the second along with x to the first, so we have to do this factoring stuff. Okay, so we're not set, so you need to get rid, we put the 0 and add 3. Now 3 is a constant, so it's not going to be able to be added to the 8x second or the 14x, so I hang it out there as plus 3. So I line up my equals. Now I have x to the second, I have x, and I have a constant. So all three of those. That means it's going to be a 3 term. It's going to be a trinomial. So you have 8x, you have negative 14, and the constant you have positive 3. Now you're ready to go. You know that there are 3 terms. So GCF table. Okay, it's not looking like we have a letter. It's not looking like we have a negative. 8, 14, and 3. Nope, it'd just be in 1's row. Okay, GCF of 1 means that we don't do it. So A, B, C. So you take positive 8 times positive 3. Well, that's positive 24. Having a positive is a match. So put 2 signs that match. Okay. We are adding to whatever the B in the middle of the A and the C is, which is negative 14. 124, that's negative 25, that's too wide. 24 divided by 2 is 12. That's dead on the money. Okay, A, it's the x second coefficient, which is 8. Put minus 2, minus 12. Then the x second you know is xx. The 8 you don't know, so you put an 8 in front of each of your x's and simplify. So 8 and 2, it's both in row 2. So you would divide that by 2. 4x minus 1, that's your factor. 8 and 12, not in 8's row, but they are in 4's row. 2x minus 3, okay? Then equals 0. So you got F1, F2. So 4x minus 1 equals 0. 2x minus 3 equals 0. So you plus the 1. So 4 times x equals 1. Then you divide by 4. 1 divided by 4 is a decimal, 0.25. If you second PRB, it'll be back to 1/4. Plus 3, 2 times x equals 3. Divide by 2, divide by 2. 3 divided by 2 is a decimal. If you second PRB, it'll be 1.5. You could also write 1.5 if you like that better. Okay, last problem in this video. 2x to the second power minus 6x equals 4x plus 48. So you got 2 answers. Okay. You have x to the second and you have x. So you have to factor. You need to get this to 0. So you're going to minus 4x, and that can go nicely with the negative 6x. Then you subtract 48. And that's a constant, it can't go here or here, so I put it beside it. So I line up the equals 0, and on this side I do have x to the second, obviously. I do have x, and I do have a constant. So 2 negatives, it's not 6 minus 4, it's negative 6 minus 4, that's negative 10. and then negative 48. Okay. Now you see that there are 3 terms, so you do the GCF on the table. So do you have a variable? No. Do you have a negative? No. 2, 10, and 48. So here's 2, here's 10, and here's 48. So 2 would be the GCF. Just a 2 though, not 2x. So go up and divide by just 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. X second is not being divided by an x, so it stays x to the second. Negative 10 divided by 2 is negative 5. The x is not being divided, so we keep it at x. And then negative 48 divided by 2 is negative 24. Now put that put the GCF, the greatest common factor, just put that over here so you can cross it out. And now the ABC comes from this trinomial here. Okay. Now remember, the A is 1x to the second. If you want to put that before you even do the t-chart, that's fine. Okay, but it's 1 now. 1 times negative 24 is negative 24. So that is a mismatch. That means a positive times a negative, adding to try to make the middle, which is negative 5. So 24 divided by 1 is 24. That does not add to negative 5. 24 divided by 2 is 12. Nope. If you divide 24 by 3, you get 8. That's negative 5. 3 plus negative 8 is negative 5. Okay, so I go here. I put plus 3 minus 8. So x to the second. Then 1 and 1. These are already in simplest form. Okay, I mean that's in the 1 row. You can divide it by 1. It just keeps it the same, and same with that. Okay, take the 1s off the front, and alongside that you put x plus 3 and x minus 8. So there's no x within that parentheses, so I don't care about it. I want to see it there, but yeah. So x plus 3 could equal 0, or x minus 8 could equal 0. So minus 3, that's negative 3, plus 8, and that is 8. So negative 3 and 8.